everyone, Dr. Kirsty Griffiths here. Today I'm going to be going through how to set up a movement space in your own house and talk to you about some props that you'll be able to use in place of traditional gym equipment if you don't have that available to you at home. So starting with selecting a space, if you have a separate room in your house that you can convert into a practice space or into a gym area, that's awesome. For many of us, we don't have that option, myself included. So the room that I'm using to practice in is actually a shared space. We have our dining room furniture in here and a couch and our dog's bed and her bowls as well. So we've kind of shifted all of that over to one side, and I have enough space here that I'm able to comfortably lay out a mat and then keep some props and some equipment around as well. It's nice to have a dedicated area for this because then you can just leave the things here and they're there for you whenever you do come back for a class or to do a workout. So I've selected a room in the house that has a lot of natural light. For me, it's nice to be able to get a little bit of light coming into the room. And I've actually used a spray paint on the windows that's given it a frosted glass appearance so that I'm still getting all the light filtering in, but the people who are on the street driving by or walking by are not able to see me. The next thing we're going to do is talk about some equipment that you can use. So what I've done is I've taken some of the equipment I have that's specifically for these classes, and then I've given you some alternatives as well that I've grabbed from different areas of the house. So starting out with weights. Now, I don't do a ton of strength classes, but I have started recently doing specifically some resistance training. We were lucky enough to find these bad boys in the garage. My husband had these from a little while back, so that gives me an option. Each of these is a 10-pound weight. However, I was finding trying to do everything with the same set of weights was obviously not working very well depending on the size of the muscle group that I was working. This was too much for me to be using for shoulders, for example. So other options, we've got apple juice. This is a safer option because it comes in a Tetra Pak, so if you drop it, it's not going to break. And then if you're feeling a little bit more risky, I've got jam and I've got a container of pasta sauce. Also options that are lighter weights. These ones are going to be probably between 1 to 3 pounds. So these are nice options if you're doing work for rotator cuff or something that requires less weight. If you're looking for heavier weights, other options include a bag of potatoes. That would be about 10 pounds. So having a weight that you would hug close to the body for exercises such as squats or lunges. The next thing I'm going to go over with you is a bolster. So I actually have a bolster that I use for my home practice. That is essentially a cylinder-shaped cushion, and this has so much utility in the yoga practice. So you can use these cushions, you can sit up onto them, so it gives you a little bit of height. If you're sitting in a cross-legged position, it allows your knees to come down toward the floor, but keeping your hips elevated. So that's a nice option for it. It's also really nice to use in some of the yin style postures, such as a long leg forward fold. Rather than having the legs completely straight, you can place this cushion underneath the knees, gives you a little bit of a passive bend in the legs, and it'll provide a little bit more space for you to come forward into your fold. For many of you though, you may not have access to this at home. So what I've been teaching my classes with is throw pillows. So if you have these throw pillows from a couch or even a regular pillow from your bed, you can either use them at their regular height. It's going to be a little bit of a different sensation than the bolster because this is thicker. But the other thing you can do is kind of mold these into the shape that you need. So you can fold it in half and place that underneath your leg. You can also use a towel or a blanket and roll it into that cylinder shape so that it's going to give you the same kind of support, but using some of the things that you might have around your house. So the next thing I like to use in some of my meditation practices is an eye pillow. This is basically a weighted pillow that gets placed over your face when you're lying on your back, and it just provides a little bit more ease for closing your eyes without feeling like you're trying to keep them shut or having to hold them like that. So if you have one of these at home, that's great. You can use aromatherapy. I have a lavender spray that I like to use spritzing on this, and that'll give you a nice scent that you're breathing in while this is laying over your face. If you don't have one of these at home, the other option is to use a cloth. So I actually love taking a face cloth and running it under cold water and having it be a little bit damp. That'll give you the same kind of heaviness that this weighted eye pillow has. And in addition, you can either choose to have warm water or cold water, and that'll give you also a temperature effect with that as well. Same thing, you can spritz that with an aromatherapy or with some essential oils, and that'll give you a nice scent to that pillow that's going over your face. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is a block. Yoga blocks are really helpful. It's sort of like a bolster, but it's a sturdier surface for bringing the floor closer to you. So for example, in standing postures where we're reaching down toward the floor, so half moon for example, the leg is lifting up, the body is opening, it's nice to have the hand able to rest down on a surface without having to come all the way down to the floor. Now again, if you don't have a block at home, it's going to be a little bit more finicky to do this, but taking a stack of books, this is roughly the same height as a block, roughly actually the same dimensions. So I've just grabbed a few books. You just have to make sure you're moving these together from one place to the next. But for the purposes that it's serving in the practice, which is just giving you a surface that brings the floor closer to you, we can use something like this in place of a block. The next thing that I like to use in the practice is a yoga strap. So this is a tool that can be used to lengthen your arms if you're doing something where you're reaching forward for a leg, or for example, if you're lying down on your back and you're reaching for that leg, you can use a strap in the arch of the foot instead and use your strength of your arms to draw the leg closer to you. So this is a handy tool. I often will refer to it in my yoga classes, particularly the yin style postures where we're holding a deeper stretch for a longer period of time. Now, if you don't have a yoga strap at home, another thing that you can use is a dog leash. So if you do have a dog, again, this is almost the same length as the yoga strap, and it's going to provide that same kind of resistance. You can use TheraBands to do this type of work, but the problem is if they're not resistant enough, then it's going to be difficult and you'll find your muscles are engaging trying to hold your leg in that position rather than being able to rely on the strength of the strap. So using a strap, or the other option would be a towel. Again, that's going to be a little bit thicker, so not quite as optimal as a dog leash if you do have one, but another option for you to give you some additional length for your arms. Okay, and then the last tool is a AccuBall. So this is used to target acupuncture points or getting into deep tissue, and you can use this usually with some specific instruction, but placing this underneath the back of the head, along different points of the spine, the back of the glutes. There's basically a different maneuver for every part of the body where you can use this ball to target a specific area and try to get that muscle to release. If you don't have one of these at home, a tennis ball or a lacrosse ball also works great for this. So when I'm instructing exercises that use this tool for my patients, and that's something that I can actually put together for you as well, is a video showing you some good exercises incorporating the use of these balls to target certain areas in the body. But when I'm suggesting this to patients, most of them don't have a specific AccuBall or a physio ball at home, so I'll advise that they try tennis balls or lacrosse balls. And then the last thing I'll mention is just regarding some of the other things that you might have in your space. So this is all optional, but knowing that you are in this space that you are dedicating to some kind of a movement or an exercise practice. For a yoga practice, sometimes having the ambiance does make a difference. So I've included a live plant. I'm actually not a huge plant person, but this one's very low maintenance, so that's a good option for me. I bought this a couple months ago, and this has just become part of the space now, and it's nice to have that in here. The other thing, I have a painting hanging behind me, again, the natural light that's coming in from the windows. And then when I'm doing an evening practice, I also keep a set of candles close by. So you want to make sure if you are using candles that you're being safe with that they're not close enough to the mat that they could be knocked over. But keeping them far away, such a nice way to create a different type of light. Also challenges the practice a little bit, because when you're working in dim light, it's not as easy for the sensory system to incorporate balance, because you're losing some of the visual effect. So if you're looking to deepen your practice a little bit and you're wanting a way to increase the challenge, using low light is a way that will make the balancing a little bit more challenging to up-level your physical practice. And then I also have This little lamp is very subtle. I don't even know if you can see that turning on and off, but again, just something that I love that's around my house, and I keep it in the space. And again, when I'm wanting to do an evening practice, I light my candles, I turn on the little lamp, and I keep some music playing that I enjoy listening to, and it makes for a really nice space. And it's not going to be quite the same as being in the studio, but we can do the best with what we have at home to make this a peaceful place to come to practice. Anyways, I hope you found that helpful today. I will continue to send out some resources. I'm going to put together some short yoga practices for you that are going to be targeting different areas of the body. I also mentioned I'm going to do a chair practice for those of you who have limited mobility or are finding that accessible yoga is a challenge for you. So I'm going to put together a practice that is all from a seated position. And then the other thing that I am going to be putting together for you is the use of the AccuBall or the tennis ball at home, and how you can use that to work on some of those trigger points in the muscles. So keep your eyes open for those, and thank you so much for tuning in.